Welcome, Sales Hacker community, to another Sales Hacker webinar. Today, we are discussing sales engagement versus CRM and which one is right for you. Hosted by myself, Scott Barker, Head of Partnerships at Sales Hacker. And to my right here, Daryl Praill, who is the CMO of VanillaSoft. Daryl, welcome.
Thank you, dude. You know, you're above me on my screen. You're not to my left.
Oh,
so
really? I always forget. Well, you're to my right.
You're adjacent. Let's go with that. You're near me.
You're up in this area.
Yeah, awesome. It's fantastic.
Excited to have this conversation with you. I know we both, we play in this world. This growing sales engagement category. So always love, chalking it up with other, industry professionals. And I think the agenda for today is we're going to start by, defining what we're actually talking about when we talk about sales engagement, when we talk about, CRM, and we're going to run through CRM, the tried and true. Number two, we're going to, like I said, define it. Number three, the parts that kind of make the whole, and then four, how do you actually take everything that we're discussing today and build out a complete tech stack for your organization. And as always, do like to add a little bit more color because you have had an amazing career, Daryl. Currently CMO of VanillaSoft. You are, leading the charge in sales engagement innovation. And you've held executive roles at companies like SAP, just a small company, IBM, Kinaxis, and Motorola. So lots of big enterprise experience there. And
it sounds more impressive than it is, because you may notice everything's in brackets because they were all smaller companies that got consumed by the larger companies. So if I were to say to you, Sybase, ironically, they were the sixth largest in the world at the time. No one today knows who they are. But you say SAP, and they go, "Oh, I know who that is." And that's So I've been fortunate. I've been around for a little bit. I've earned every single one of these white hairs, and and I've had a lot of fun. So it's amazing. I'm having a blast. VanillaSoft, as you said, sales engagement is like on fire right now because it's a category that's revolutionizing the space. But it's also somewhat confusing the space. So hence today's topic.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. And then myself, we won't spend too much time on this, but where I'm going to be, pulling some of my answers from. So I've been in the SaaS world for about 5 years now, individual contributor, business development manager, sales manager. And then most recently for the last year, I've been running partnerships at Sales Hacker. So managing our relationships with about 90 different sales technology organizations. So I'm very much in the thick of it within sales and MarTech landscape. And sales engagement's pretty exciting for me right now, and excited to dive in.
All right, well, let's just do that.
Let's do it. So let's start, I think, so how, Daryl, are we going to figure out which tool is right for you? Like, where do I even start?
So that's a great point. We've got some slides on this. So let me kind of set the stage. So, sales engagement is a new category in the last couple years, although it's been around for actually a long time. It's been called lots of different things. It's been called lead management. It's been called, I've heard it called CRM for inside sales, which that term alone talks a little bit about the age of the category. It's been around, and there's been vendors leading the charge, whether it's Outreach or SalesLoft or InsideSales.com or VanillaSoft. Those are kind of the four main players in the space, all advocating for this. But because it's only come to the fore recently, there's some confusion. And it's like, do I need it? Because, I don't want to spend money on one more piece of technology in my stack if I don't need it. Or it's, I've got a CRM platform and that works just fine. I know I'm all in on Salesforce as an example. Or if you're even a smaller company, I'm all in on Pipedrive, throwing them out there. But either way, why do I need another piece in my stack? And we get asked this a lot, whether we're at shows, we're speaking, we're online, we're in social, doesn't matter. Even in our sales cycles, it comes up. And it's helped me understand what's the benefit, why do I care? So the purpose of today is really It's not to convince you you need sales engagement. It's to educate you on what sales engagement is. And then we're gonna compare and contrast that to CRM. That seems to be the logical point of contention or confusion. And then you can figure out if your stack is right for you, or if you might want to mature into a more sophisticated stack, like so many people are doing, where sales engagement is a piece of the stack. And of course, what we say here is our take. You may have a different take, so by all means, share it. And because the whole point of here is just discussion and debate. So that's really what I want to accomplish today.
Yeah, perfect. And just to reiterate a point there, if there is anything that we discussed that maybe you disagree with, or you have a different point of view, or if you'd like further clarification, there is a little Q&A section. So make sure that you jump on, you get involved in the discussion, because as Gerald said, this is for the community, it's for you. So we want you to get the most value from this as you can. And then a final note, we will be recording this session. So if you do have to jump off, or you want to share this out with a colleague after, we will be sending this over via email as soon as we wrap up. But CRM, let's start.
Let's get into it. But what I would also say is, Scott, as he's alluded to, has been doing this for a long time. So have I. So please don't hesitate. Follow either one of us on LinkedIn, on Twitter, wherever, and then we'll connect offline if you want to have a one-on-one, and we'll carry on the conversation. All right. So my first point I want to talk about, Scott, you and I, we're jamming here. Two guys who've been in the space for a long time. CRM. Yeah. The question was, is it tried and true? It's a question mark. It's tried. I suppose it's tried and true. It's tried and true. Gotta do that.
Inflection, tried and true.
Yeah, exactly. Is it? I wouldn't have questioned this 2 or 3 years ago, but now I'm questioning it. So let me talk a little bit about. And I don't think I need to sell anybody here on the merits of CRM, and I'm not going to try to convince you otherwise. That's not my goal. CRM is a great product as a backbone, a corporate repository that everybody from customer success to support to sales to marketing, whatever, can go for that consolidated single vision of truth. It's brilliant that way. But we're talking today from the sales development perspective. So this is what we see. I'm going to go through some stats here, Scott. Would love to get your reaction. And then I'll go tie in some of these bullets here. So this is what the research shows us. It's not, we've done research on this, as have other companies, but you can go in any academia, and I've got lots I can share with you if you want references. So this is pretty solid. So on average, I'm hearing the stat, 48% of new leads never get followed up on. Do you hear something similar in that vein, Scott?
Mm-hmm. Every time I hear it, it shocks me, of course. But if you're having managed BDR teams and sales teams, I see that people are going to spend their time where they think it's most effective. So some leads, if deemed not important, will get left behind.
So you're hitting some of my bullets here, which by the way, candidly, Scott and I haven't talked about this. We've got the slides we wanted to cover off. So what you're seeing here is just it's two cats in the space comparing notes. It's kind of fun. Yeah. So and by the way, these points, they're not meant to position sales as a bad individual. It's just we're going through the stats for having some eyes wide open. Next, what do we see? We see persistency. In other words, how many times do you actually make follow-up attempts to actually get a hold of somebody? Some stats will say less than 2 attempts on average are made. It might be like 1.9. So we're around, we'll say 2 attempts are made on average to engage with a lead. So I call them once, call them twice, never reach out to them again. I've seen stats as high as 4. You want to split the difference and say 3, fine. Are you seeing similar stats on your side, Scott?
Yeah, absolutely. And then the scary thing is the stats that actually, like how long it actually takes to get in touch with someone, which I'm sure you probably have there as well. And there's this huge difference between how many times people are trying and how many times it actually takes to get a hold of someone.
Absolutely. And I know we're getting some questions about what are the sources of these data points. I'll share them afterwards when we send out the recording, but you can Google these. I know HubSpot's done a thing like 50 incredible stats you didn't know about sales, et cetera, but lots of sources. and I'll share those with you. All right, so we got 40% of new leads not followed up on, 2 attempts made. The next part is, I love this, the concept of speed to lead. So speed to lead really means when a new lead comes in, how fast are you attempting to engage with them? And the stats will show now again, pick your study, a range of a typical response time to a brand new, say a web-based lead, an inbound lead of 35 to 60 hours. Said another way, that is what? That's a day and a half to 2.5 days, ballpark. You seen the same thing your side, Scott?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but again, it's shocking to me. But having been involved in organizations, it's unfortunately the state we're in. And then the crazy part again on that is, if you're not getting in touch with these leads within about 5 minutes, I think the most recent stat is, your chance of contacting them drops off by about 70%, which is crazy.
It's so true. So we'll talk a bit about that. So those are just some of the stats, right? So I guess the last thing is, we're not the best at a cadence. So what's the cadence? The cadence says, you should probably call, and I'm saying call, maybe it's email, maybe it's SMS, maybe it's another way of engagement. The point being, you should make an effort to engage with your prospect on a regular cadence. Maybe it's, I know some people will spell so 7 and 7, 7 attempts in 7 days. Our study we did recently kind of said you want to call, once in day 1, call once in day 2, call once in day 3, wait 4 days, and then start again. And so that way you're not really stalking them. And you want to mix up how you're reaching out to them, whether it's email or calling or whatever. But that's your cadence. But we're not good at doing a cadence. We know we should do it, but we're not good, especially if we're only doing 2 attempts on average. So that's just the state of the nation. You can't get better until you diagnose the symptoms, right? So I just did a case study on this last week that I shared at MarTech, the MarTech conference, the Marketing Technology Conference. East is in Boston. And a total sidebar, it was really interesting because I sat in on a number of sessions. One of them, the ones I sat in on, was Akamai, kind of a big ass company, right? Lots of money, lots of technology. And they talked about how they redid their whole processes and infrastructure, and they did a before and after. And after, this is their big claim, now, and they were really excited, they're on stage. Now, when a new lead comes in, we follow up within 24 hours, hurrah. And that was after re-engineering. So it's not, there's Akamai. It's not, and they're celebrating that. And I'm in the audience going, oh, dude, to your point, whether you say 5 minutes or 1 hour, all the studies will agree within 1 hour is best. So 24 hours bad. So that's the state of the nation. The point being, when you look down and you say, why are we taking a long time to call new leads? Why are we not making enough attempts? Why do we have a bad time doing this right cadence? Ironically, it's because of how your CRM is designed. And this is not a knock on CRM. This is just an observation. So the CRM is list-based. So when I say list-based, right, you log in and you got this list of activities you need to do. These are your leads you need to call. These are your follow-up activities you might have made, and it's this big. Fair enough? We all live in that paradigm. Pick your CRM, that's kind of the paradigm. And it might even be prioritized in some fashion. This view you're seeing as a sales rep is prioritized however you want to be prioritized. It doesn't matter, it's prioritized. Scott, you made a mention.
Lead scoring in there or something.
Yes. It could be a lead score, lead grade, whatever you want to. Here you go, it's prioritized. But you talked about kind of our own, our human behavior. I almost call it cherry picking. So what do we do as sales professionals? And I'm as guilty of this as anybody else. Mm-hmm. If I see on my, go ahead.
Yeah. So I think like one of the most important things you need to master as a successful salesperson is, how am I going to prioritize my time today? Right. You have to be spending your time in the high impact activities, right? So you're naturally going to have a bias to spending all your time on be like, hey, that lead looks good. I've closed one of those before. Let's focus on that one.
Yes. And that's the example I was going to give, right? So, I use the example of it on my list. I see Joe's Garage, and underneath it, I see IBM. And underneath it, I see ABC Manufacturing. Scott, who am I going to call first? You're a 5-year rock star. Who are you calling first?
I'm calling IBM.
You're calling IBM.
Yeah.
Why?
And then Joe's Garage. I bet Joe's a great guy.
He probably is, but on the list, he was first. He had a better score. Why are you calling IBM?
Yeah. I see. There's obviously going to be more opportunity, bigger deal size. That means I hit quota and I go to Barbados for a week.
You nailed it. Right? Yeah. So we all do it. Yeah. That's your human bias. So it's list-based. That's human bias. And you talked a little bit about productivity. So what happens on that list? If you're rocking it, you get more leads coming in, right?
Yeah.
And so suddenly Joe's Garage, who was apparently better than IBM, falls on to page number 2, right? Yeah. And then go ahead.
Yeah, sorry. It was just a point that came up just the other day too, kind of very much in the similar vein. And it can get scary is when this happens and this human bias that we're talking about, some reps can have a misconstrued kind of vision of your ideal customer profile. Maybe they actually are prioritizing Joe's Garage because last week they closed Bob's Garage. So now in their head as the sales rep, they've decided, okay, garage companies are good for us. Yep. They close quickly, whereas that may not actually be in your ideal customer profile that your marketing team has set up. Therefore, you're spinning your wheels on all of the wrong activity.
You nailed it. You totally nailed it. And so, the irony of this whole situation is the rep is actually trying to do the right thing. To yours point, they had success with garages, so they're using their own human intuition and experience and history, which frames all of us to say, that's the way I'm going to go. It doesn't matter what my system here says. That's the way I'm going to go. They have the best of intents, but there you go. So that's a reality. That's all that happens. And the result of that, the last thing is, in a typical CRM system, what do you do? If you call up IBM or Joe's Garage and you call them, you don't get a voicemail. Well, what's your job? Your job is to physically go make a brand new task. And I'm going to call back in an hour, a day, a week, whatever. It's a manual task. You have to manually do it. A lot of people don't like manually making those tasks. That's why they just blow it off and they never make more than one call attempt. Or they, when they say I'm going to call back in a week or a day, that's what sets the cadence. So if they say call back in a week, now you've made one outreach attempt in that 1 week, even though the lead just came in, and the lead will never, ever, ever be more hot simply because the rep said, I'm going to follow up in a week. So the cadence is shot.
Yeah. Yeah. And
so all of that says, go ahead. You're laughing. I know, because you're living it.
Yeah. Well, just I can't even imagine living in an environment as someone who has done both, the manual process of going in, creating a task, logging LVM, left voicemail, the time I did it, whatever. I couldn't, and then also having worked with sales engagement platforms a lot over the last few years. I don't think I could. Yeah, I don't think I honestly don't. I think it would be a game-changing decision that I would go in an organization. IBM said, "Hey, we'll pay $1 million, come work for us," and I had to do it the old school way.
I'd say no.
A hard sell because I know the efficiency that can be created in the alternate way.
You got it. So we're going to get to the efficiency shortly. I just wanted to set the stage. So it may sound like I'm dumping on CRM. I'm not. CRM serves a strong, real purpose, and you're going to see in our conversation today, it's still a critical part of the stack. I'm just pointing out that not every piece of the stack is optimally efficient, despite your best efforts. Like you said, you might, you said it, Scott. Maybe I've got the lead score right there and I prioritized it, but there's still human behavior and it's still a list paradigm, and we're still people. So this is what it is, and that's what think about a new lead coming in. A new lead coming in, brand spanking new. What happens? It pops in your list. Now maybe it pops at the very top of your list, but again, you're still looking at other leads. You're cherry picking, and that new lead may not get called for a day or two, and that's why there's no speed to lead. And when you call, then all of a sudden you go, this isn't quality because the moment's gone. Right. If you ask marketing, now I'm speaking as a CMO for a second, right? Mm-hmm. What I dislike is I'll go to a show or whatever, and I'll get all these leads and I'll bring them back and I'll give them my sales team historically. And they won't call for like a week because they're busy doing something else. And then they'll call, maybe I got them 200 leads. They'll call 20 and say they're crap. I'm not wasting my time calling the other 180 because the first 20 were crap and I have more important things to do. I got to chase real leads, not these leads. Marketing is pulling their hair out because if just would have called, within the hour or hell, even within the day, because it's a trade show in that case, and you would have called like 4 times or 5 times or 8 times a week later, you would have had a lot more, activity in your pipeline versus what you have now. And now I've just wasted $20, $30, $40,000 on a show and I have nothing to show for it. So that's the consequence. All right. We beat up CRM. That's the first point we wanted to make. Second point we want to get into, let me get into it here, is sales engagement. So you talked about life before and life after and how you can't get over it. So let's just talk a little bit about what sales engagement is. And then Scott, you can talk to me about your own personal experiences because I'd love to hear that. So we use an expression here that CRM, customer relationship management, is used for managing relationships. In other words, they already exist. Sales engagement, hence the term engagement, is used for starting engagement and it's starting relationships. And that once you kind of get that in your head, that right away is a big differentiator. Now, Scott, you've done both. And I've not shared that expression with you before. So what's your reaction when you hear that?
Yeah, I think that's a great way of putting it, and kind of in a similar vein, I kind of define it as a CRM being the system of record and sales engagement being the system of action. So it actually allows you to make actions upon those relationships that are in the CRM. So I think that's a great way to kind of look at it. Like coming from both, I remember when I first implemented a sales engagement solution, I was doing so mostly I wanted consistency in our actions. So I was managing a team and there was too many inconsistencies in what people were doing, and they weren't proper. Like, as much as I had the playbook and it was right in front of them, they weren't following it. And I didn't have a way to actually find out if they were following it other than spending literally 8 hours of my Friday going through Salesforce and being like, God damn it, Billy, you're not following.
It's right there.
You're not supposed to. The second touch is an email, and you're spending time on LinkedIn or whatever. So that was actually my first pain I was trying to solve. Was actually consistency of our actions, and
what you probably ended up doing was creating all these workarounds and custom views in your CRM to try to manage that and instill that process, right? Yeah,
totally. Yeah. Everything from like a physical playbook that I would tape to everyone's desk, to online learning platforms, to list views that you could see kind of what every person was doing. But unfortunately, people can game systems, and it was very hard. I'll say that it was difficult.
So look at it this way. So you use the analogy of a system of record being the CRM and a system of action being, sales engagement. Let me spin another one for you. This is what I like to say. Marketing automation. Most of us get our leads from marketing automation. Even if you have a web form on your website, for a piece of content, free trial, whatever it might be, it goes to the marketing automation platform first. It may sit there and get nurtured, or it may just, whoop right through onto sales. It doesn't really matter. The point is, the expectation is that sales is being handed a marketing qualified lead, an MQL. So, and then historically in CRM, you took that and you went through the SQL process, and is it sales accepted? And then is it, and is it a deal? And is it a win-loss, et cetera? The problem was, for all those issues we just talked about in the last slide, that didn't work. So basically, if marketing automation is for an MQL, sales engagement turns an MQL into an SQL, a sales qualified lead. So the whole purpose of sales engagement is to sales qualify. If it's not sales qualified, you connect and they're not ready, flip it back to marketing. Now they can nurture it some more. Or if they're a bad fit, you reject them altogether. They're gone. I'm not dealing with them anymore. Or they truly are sales qualified. They hit the criteria that your organization has passed on. Boom, flip it over to CRM, and now they have a deal, an opportunity that they can chase, hopefully win, and occasionally lose. But
Yeah.
sales engagement is the system of purpose to sales qualify the lead from MQL to SQL. And does that resonate with you too?
Totally. Absolutely. I think it's another great way of looking at it. And Gerald, maybe this could be a whole new webinar, but I think it's important maybe if we touch on that really quick, because sometimes people have their marketing automation and they've got their CRM and they're like, well, we've got the power to, send these email sequences and cadences through marketing automation. Why do we need to bring in another tool? Do you want to touch on that quickly? Like, why not just train your sales reps on how to use your marketing automation platform?
I'm sorry. I wasn't supposed to laugh out loud, but since you said that, you made me laugh out loud.
Have you tried? It sounds like
I've never had this question. I've been asked this question by, my own past bosses who clearly they don't understand what that means, but that's good. That's okay. That's why they're asking the question. Yeah. All right, let's get into it, because again, I can put my CMO hat on and I can totally answer the question. All right. So the marketing automation is representative, of corporate. So when an email gets sent, it's coming from, marketing or info or sales or questions at vanillasoft.com. All right. That's my marketing automation, is sending it out to you. And all the predefined nurturers are all from corporate. Now, the issue is they're all templates. They're all predefined. There's nothing custom. There's nothing nuanced about it. Yes, if you downloaded paper A, the nurture may be related to paper A and all the attributes discussed in that paper, but it's just generic. It doesn't necessarily fully embrace whether you're a C level or you're a manager level or a user level. And yes, you can get lots of nurtures that map to a lot of personas, which is a lot of work, but they're all corporate and they're designed to be done automatically by triggers like a lead coming in. Whereas a sales rep, I may have a team of one, in which case, okay, you want to use the marketing automation tool, you're a team of one, fine. I'll add a license to you and away you go. Or you have a team of 10, or you have a team of 20, or you have a team of 50 in sales or more. Trying to teach them how to use a sophisticated tool like marketing automation that's not meant to be optimal as far as usability. It's meant for a power user. It's got a lot of capabilities. It's very sophisticated. Then individually setting them up, every single one. So if I have a standard nurture, now I have to duplicate that nurture for every brand new sales rep I bring onto the team. So it's coming from their email address. But it's still tied to the master email server, not to your own inbox. So for all that reason, it's just not scalable. It's not the most cost effective. It's not the most intuitive. And candidly, every sales professional I know will abandon that tool within 24 to 48 hours and call it a waste of their time. It's killing their productivity. Mm-hmm. But what's your reaction?
Yeah, no, you're definitely right. And I more just want to play, devil's advocate, because I have heard that come up when having conversations with sales engagement. And my reaction to that is typically, and you summed it up perfectly, it's marketing automation is one too many.
Yes.
And then sales engagement allows you to do one-to-one at scale, though. It's not just one-to-one like your normal follow-up. You can do one-to-one at scale. So that's usually kind of how I position it there. But
I'm laughing because over here on my wonderful iPad, I've got my team who's watching our conversation right now and sending me some feedback in case I miss a point. Look at how sweet and considerate they are, right? But they're actually saying, and I'm going to quote you, and the owner of the marketing automation platform is going to kill the reps who mess up the system. In other words, there's a lot of work goes into that. Yeah, so we get it. So that's why you wouldn't do it. All right, so we've talked about what sales engagement is. We talked about, whether it's system of action versus system of record. It's about starting relationships versus management relationships. It's about taking an MQL and turning it into an SQL. That's this whole raison d'etre. We talked about the problems with CRM and why CRM can't do that. Let's talk a little bit about how we overcome all that and honor the idea of sales engagement. Now, what I'm talking about here, just to be full disclosure, is I'm going to talk about VanillaSoft for a second. Not everybody does it our way. Other vendors do it slightly different ways, and it's up to you to educate yourself and talk to those vendors. That's not our disclosure. But what we do at VanillaSoft is we got rid of the list. It's gone. So we have a queue. So what do we mean by queue, right? It's just, whether you're a queue or a line, and you think of that line when you're at the football game and you want to get your hot dog and your beverage, one after the other, that's a queue, right? And the server only serves one at a time. They don't say, yo, the person 3 people back, you look like you're going to spend more money on our hospitality. You come up to the front of the line. That doesn't happen. They serve the next person at the front of the line. That's a queue. That's what we do. So VanillaSoft.
Unless you're like P. Diddy or something.
Yeah, well, P. Diddy.
P. Diddy's in the line.
He's got his own dedicated queue, right? It's just the P. Diddy queue. That's right. Is that a PQ? I don't know. Anyway. So what we do is we have all this wonderful capabilities in the background that allows you to figure out how you want to prioritize your queue. For example, if delivering brand new leads in from a web lead is important to you, which it should be, then that should be top of the queue. That should move right to the front of the line because they're hot right now. That's an example. Or if their title is VP or C-level versus manager or nothing, then they should move to the front of the queue. Or if they're a bigger size company or they're in your sweet spot for industry or employee size or whatever it might be, they move to the front of the queue. And so you can define all these attributes, all these rules, these filters that influence the queue. And you can do this by an individual rep or by a team of reps. You can do it by a geography. You can do it by a product line or a service line or whatever you want to. So if you've got individual teams of sales professionals, then you can each can have their own queue. Point being, when they log in, they don't see a list. As soon as they log in, what they see is they see this Scott. This Scott is the contact you're calling. You're calling Joe at Joe's Garage, because we've determined this is the next best lead for you based on our criteria. We're not going to show you anybody else. And the only thing you can do is you can call Joe, or it might say you're going to email Joe, or you're going to SMS Joe, or whatever. Whatever the engagement is, all right? You're going to send an email with a video or without a video. It doesn't really matter. The point being a queue. And I go through the process. Let's say it's a call. I call, I get no answer. I drop a voicemail. And I do that. We have result codes. So result codes are like little speed dial buttons. So that's what I call them on the side. I can say, oh, there's a result code called LM, left message, right? The classic left message. As soon as I hit that, there's rules behind the scene that says, oh, based on the cadence they're in, if they left a message, that person should come back into your queue in 24 hours. In the meantime, Joe's Garage is gone. And now the next best lead is here for you to call, happens to be IBM. And you need to send them an email. And here's, here's the template you should be using and everything else. And this just process repeats itself. But halfway during the day, a new lead comes in. Boom, you see that right now, this very second. Call them. Or if you want to put a delay on there, because in fact, we did a study. You mentioned 5 minutes. That was initially done by InsideSales.com in 2007. They had 15,000 companies. And it said, call within 5 minutes.
Yeah. We
did a study recently on 45 million companies, 130 million sales interactions. And what we learned is if you call within 5 minutes, it's the same as in calling 24 hours from now. Now, in fairness to InsideSales.com, that study was 2007. This is now late 2018, so it's 11 years later. Social media has come on the fore. Buyer behaviors have changed. So things have changed. If you call within 5 minutes now, people feel like they're being stalked. It's kind of creepy, and they don't answer the phone. But our study, where we agreed with them on, was 1 hour. So if you call, say, in 15 or 30 minutes, then your possibility of engaging them more than triples. Mm-hmm. So what we do is we have rules that says if a new lead comes in, wait 30 minutes, boom, it's in the queue, and this is what you do. The point being, we use a queue. The beauty of a queue is massively productive, because now I'm just going boom, boom, boom. I'm not wasting time staring at the queue. I'm not wasting time cherry picking. All the human issues are gone. And the best part of the queue is that at any time in your life, management can change the priorities of the queue. So we just, a few weeks ago was the end of the quarter for many people. Maybe it was that last week and they're putting the push on, and they knew that normally they sell product A, B, and C, but B and C aren't selling so well. A is selling well, let's change the queue to only focus on A so we can hit our numbers, right? Soon as they change that queue, I, as a user, as a sales professional, I do nothing. That next contact that comes up on my screen to engage with reflects the new rules of the queue because it just reorganized on the fly. Mm-hmm. That's how we do it. That's how sales engagement works. And the beauty of that is when you have a queue, you now have a couple of things going on for you. You have speed to lead. We talked about that being a problem with CRM. You're calling right away. You have persistency. You're not going to make 2 calls, only 2 calls. You're going to call 43,000 times if that's what your playbook says you need to do. That's what it takes. That's what you're going to do with the right cadence, the right sequencing and cadence with the right mix of, calls and emails and whatnot. And life is good. And all of a sudden, to your point, Scott, you talked about efficiency and productivity and enforcing the rules so you don't have to do workarounds anymore. That's the beauty of sales engagement. So that's a long-winded way to define sales engagement.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that was an amazing way to kind of define that and sum it up. And just to add on this, I love the queue-based thing, especially how granular you're talking, with it's one thing to change the priorities by a team, but imagine having the ability to change the priorities by each individual member of your team. I know, thinking back, I had people that were amazing at following up on ebook leads. They were very informed. They were very educated on the market. So they would just crush those leads. Whereas other people, not so much. Maybe they were better at, brochure downloads. So people just want the specs and they were more about just hardline facts, and being able to have that granularity of changing that is super, super powerful. And then, go ahead.
I was going to say, one of the cool things about Q, we don't talk about much, but we've seen a lot of our clients do this too, is it gives you the power of if you want, of a round robin, right? So in a CRM, a lead comes in and it's assigned to Scott. Okay, Scott's going to chase it, and it's all on Scott to do the chasing. In a Q, it's a round robin. In other words, okay, I'm supposed to be calling, this person's supposed to be called right now based on our cadence and everything else. We've never been able to contact this person. So even though we've called and sent emails, there's been no connection. That if you want, that can go to the next available, sales rep who's open. So that way there's no delays. So it doesn't matter who's doing the initial outreach, but once a sales rep finally connects with the prospect, boom, it's always belonging to them because now it's about building a relationship. So that way there's no, if someone's sick or takes time off, they're not getting forgotten. So again, one more cool thing about a queue.
Yeah.
Anyway, that's the whole thing there. Let's move on. I know we're killing time here. This one won't take long. So the whole part about here is we talk about the parts that make up the whole, which is, I mentioned this already. I mentioned marketing automation, or MAP, marketing automation platform, and CRM, right? And those together is the full stack, and you want to have the right pieces for that. But let's go to step 4. Think of this as the before. This is what most people have today. In step 4, it changes. So now you can kind of see it here in the slide, right? So on the left-hand side, it's that classic demand waterfall that you'd see from people like SiriusDecisions who created it, where, marketing is top of funnel, right? They're targeting who they want to talk to. They're doing all the demand generation programs, the ebooks, the webinars, all that wonderful stuff. They're doing the AdWords, they're doing the great steps coming in, they're nurturing it. That's all in the marketing world. But the minute it becomes a lead, they filled out a form as an example, their score hit a certain level, boom, we're now in the middle of the funnel, and it gets handed off to the sales development rep. And the whole purpose of the sales development rep is to connect with them and qualify them. And only then do I either close it in some organizations, but for many, they then pass it off to an account executive because now it's a real opportunity, and they close it. So that's how a sales team typically, a sales funnel from marketing, sales development to account execs, demand waterfall typically works. Is that a fair assessment, Scott?
Yeah, absolutely. And interesting thing that I'm seeing as well is this is kind of the traditional, right? That's where sales engagement played over the last few years, but it's been interesting to see it evolve to, fit both the AE use case now, and then even a step further. And we're seeing customer success utilize, engagement, because
Yeah.
for AEs, it can keep them on track to, a mutual success plan, I used to call it when I was a rep. You build out from close date backwards, you kind of work backwards, and you build this mutual success plan with your potential buyer. And something like that sales engagement platform can really make sure that you stick to that. And then success, obviously, same sort of deal. You can make sure that you're engaging with your customers on a regular flow. And it's interesting to see that those new use cases pop up.
And that's just it, right? When you start to innovate, all of a sudden you go, hey, this is really cool. We're loving sales engagement for the sales development role, but why can't we apply it to customer success? It's the exact same thing,
Mm-hmm.
and you nail it. And then ironically, VanillaSoft, go figure, we eat our own dog food, and that's our success team uses the exact same thing. So for the exact same reason. So if that's the left side, that funnel, that's the marketing stack, right? That's how you would look at it. This is how it shakes out now. Now we've added that middle layer called sales engagement. So historically, you would have had that top funnel piece, marketing automation. And then once it was MQL, it would have got flipped right down to the CRM.
Mm-hmm.
But then you're back in the list-based issue with the human bias and the human issues, lack of speed to lead, lack of cadence, lack of persistency. All right. So we pull out the SQL process and we say the SQL process belongs to the sales development rep. And it's in that middle of the funnel stage. And that's where sales engagement is. And then you can flip it to CRM. Now, Scott, you asked an interesting question when we were discussing how we're going to, tackle today's conversation.
Mm-hmm.
It was about CRM. Do you remember the question you asked?
I do. It was so with this evolution, I'm always curious, and I've been talking to a lot of different players in the space around this. What does the future of CRM look like with the explosion of sales engagement platforms?
So the answer is, I don't know, but I have an opinion. And the reason I say I don't know is because companies have invested millions and millions of dollars in their CRM. So much, right? So we know, especially the bigger you go up in the organizational size, there's less desire because their processes are so intertwined. Again, Akamai re-engineered the whole thing and it still only got it down to 24 hours. A lot of that's because there's so many pieces in the stack. So they're hesitant to rip out CRM. But that said, I was on a call last week with an industry analyst, and we talked about this slide here, and we stumbled a bit, and I wasn't understanding why we were stumbling, and it was exactly the point you were raising. He was like, "So you think CRM is still there?" I'm like, "Yeah." He goes, "No, CRM's gone," and I'm like, "What do you mean CRM's gone?" "Oh, it's gone." And eventually, what I got out of him was, I said, "You're prognosticating. You're telling me that you think in the future CRM won't be involved at all, and it'll only be sales engagement on that sales qualification and sales closing step. Is that what you're saying?" He goes, "Well, yeah." So he was talking future. This you're looking at is today. So many people do agree that there won't be a need for CRM other than sharing the data. You talked about that, Scott, so the rest of the company has it as a corporate backbone. We ourselves at VanillaSoft, we don't have a CRM system. We use our tool to do those bottom two, pieces of the funnel because it does it, and it does it really, really well. So that's what I think the future is. I think it will disappear, but it's going to take time because there is a large investment in CRM. So that's kind of the new and improved tech stack. You can, and I'm going to go back to what I said from the beginning. You can do whatever you want. If your tech stack with the marketing automation going right into CRM works for you, you have persistency, you have speed to lead, you have a right cadence, all right? You're hitting your numbers. There's no need for you to change. I'm not going to suggest otherwise. I'm not advocating. I'm not trying to pitch. But I will tell you, sales engagement has evolved because for most people, it doesn't work. And it's really the sales qualification stage, especially where it breaks down.
Yeah, definitely. Right. And don't be a victim to the old sunken cost fallacy with your CRM. Like you said, there's been a massive investment, and I'm not sure if I think it will disappear. I think there may actually be, it will still be in the background. I just don't think anyone will interact with it. And maybe have your, like you said, I don't even know who would own it in the future. Maybe your
It'd be your
CFO
sales and marketing ops people would have it.
Yeah.
And really, they're having it for dashboarding purposes more than anything else. It's a data warehouse, right?
Yeah.
So I totally agree with you. So
and Daryl, sorry to interject there. We just have some a great question actually from the community. So I wanted to throw it your way, and it's from Tom George. Tom, thank you so much for the question, and it's actually kind of a few questions into one. So Tom wants to know who manages the queue. Is it each individual sales rep, or is there a manager who sets it up and the sales rep simply gets served up a contact? And if the latter is true, does that mean that VanillaSoft is mostly focused on SDRs and prospecting as opposed to AEs using this tool to manage contacts?
All right, Tom, that's a great question. So for the most part, 99% of the time, the queue, the lead prioritization, the lead routing, all right, is all set up by management. And do I have one queue for the entire team, or do I break it down into multiple queues based on however you want to do that? Geography, product lines, account-based team over here, a small to medium business team over here. That's totally up to you, because each of those queues may have different rules that influence how leads are prioritized. So that's how it works. And so the managers set that up. And then when they add a sales rep to to VanillaSoft in this case, they simply assign that rep to that queue. Now, what's interesting is VanillaSoft goes one step further for the more sophisticated people, and they have this concept, an optional concept of projects, right? So let me give an example, throwing it out there. There are some organizations that say, when I come in the morning, I'm going to call, if I'm in North America right now, I'm going to call all Eastern contacts only, just Eastern. And then in the afternoon, I'm going to call all West Coast contacts. So in the morning, you're calling me. In the afternoon, you're calling Scott, which makes perfect sense, right? So they could set those up as different projects. And it may be that there are cultural nuances. I use North America, but maybe one is Eastern Europe and one is South America. Clearly different cultural dynamics and communication styles. So you could create a project, called Eastern North America, Western North America, or, Eastern Europe, South America, whatever. And when the rep signs in, if they're presented with the option of multiple projects, when they pick that project, then they can have a queue for that project. So I could have, I could be targeting one market in the morning, one market in the afternoon, different projects, queue changes dynamically. That's getting much more sophisticated. For most of our clients, they kind of have one project, nice and simple. And they have sales teams who are specializing in certain products or services or markets or segments. And they have queues designed specifically for that team based on parameters they feel are important, attributes, company size, title, age of the lead, et cetera. And the sales rep just logs in and they're presented with the next best lead. So the sales rep, the ability for the sales rep to pick and choose which contact to reach out to is gone. The system's telling you this is the way it is. Now, there's nothing stopping from the rep from giving feedback to their manager and saying, I don't like how it's prioritized. And if you want to do a different queue and do an A/B test and see if that rep was right, and you want, then move the rest of the team over to the new queue, knock yourself out.
Awesome. Great answer. And I hope that answered your question, Tom. And Tom actually has one more, and it's a great question as well. So the issue with CRM is that for many companies, as we discussed, CRM is the system of a record for accounts, for contacts. If CRM disappears, what will the system of record for accounts be?
Yeah. Well, we've already talked a bit about that, haven't we? Right. So in some regards, I don't think it'll disappear from a stack point of view, because that becomes a system of record. To your point, it is that it's that roll up. So so for example, some companies might have Zendesk on support, and they've got VanillaSoft for sales engagement, and they've got Marketo or HubSpot for marketing automation, but it all goes into maybe Salesforce.com, and that becomes a system of record, like a data warehouse. And the people who live there are your ops people and your accountants who want to look at the dashboards and share it with all the VIPs. The other way you can do it, depending on your organization, is you can get rid of it totally. Like I said, we don't have it, and we just use we have a dashboarding tool that collects the data from our various systems and rolls it up. So now we get all the information we want to, and there is no true, at that point, the system of record is the dashboarding tool. So I think as a hybrid of that would be you export everything into a data warehouse, and then again that becomes a system of record. But in my mind, the CRM is essentially your data warehouse.
Yeah, great point. And the thing I'll add to that, going back to my example of system of record versus system of action. The funny thing, when you're the system of action and you're doing all of the actions, well, you're recording all of those actions as you're doing them, right? So inevitably over time, you're going to see the system of action also in the back end become the system of record, because that's where all the actions are taking place. You may need a tool, like you said, to help you tease out the data and things, but I think inevitably whoever owns the action owns the record as well.
I love this question that's just come in, Scott. You want to read that one off?
Absolutely. This is with Sumit Bhatia. Thank you for the question, Sumit. Don't you think the CRM provides far more functionality than sales engagement?
So, Sumit, let me go with this. I'm going to go back a slide, and I'm going to say, yes, it provides far more functionality. I agree with you, but you knew there's going to be a but. The but is this. The functionality is it provides customer support functionality. If you're Salesforce, you have the support cloud, you have the service cloud, right? You have their marketing cloud, or you have all these wonderful pieces, and it works like a charm. So it does provide more functionality, but is that functionality working for you, right? We go back to the way CRM works as it relates to the sales development role. It's list-based. That list kills your lead prioritization, kills your speed to lead, kills your cadence, kills your persistency. So from an ops point of view, CRM is your baby. You can get a holistic view, one platform, one throat to choke from a vendor's point of view to make them accountable to meet your needs. From a revenue point of view, you're 3 times more successful on a pipeline contribution on a sales engagement platform because you get rid of the list. You have the system of action as opposed to the system of record, exactly as Scott was saying. So you now have to make a decision. What do you value more? If it's more important for you that you have that single system of record that everybody lives in for whatever reason, and I'm not judging you. If that's more important to you, stick with that. But if, like many of us, you're held accountable to numbers and revenue numbers, then the sales engagement platform simply takes the MQL and turns it into an SQL for 80+% of the population. For the other 20%, they go all the way to the end of the deal. But again, it's going to go back to that CRM or whatever system of record you have. Yeah. Would you offer anything different on that, Scott?
No, I would just offer another way. It's kind of like looking forward versus looking backwards, right? Sales engagement is looking forward, action. What can I do to drive revenue efficiency? CRM is looking backwards and noticing trends and teasing out, things that way. So both important, just like you need, a rear view mirror in the car and you need to look out your windshield, both important. But moving forward from a revenue standpoint is critical.
Absolutely. So I think we've already moved into the Q&A section here, so I'll finally catch that slide up for you if you want me to. So where are we at, man? That was really all I wanted to get across today, was the whole premise of that's what sales engagement is. That's how it differentiates from CRM. Don't misconstrue me. CRM it plays a central role, a significant role. However, there are consequences of how sales and CRM work together that are clearly affecting your revenue goal attainment. The CRM addresses. It's a solution to a pain. Now that you know the difference, the pros and the cons, you can make whatever decision you want to make. But if you've been hearing sales engagement a lot and you're really not sure what it is, now you know. It's that little piece of technology that sits between your marketing automation and your CRM. And it's the thing that becomes your system of action that makes your reps crazy productive and makes your investors and your shareholders crazy happy with the with the numbers that you achieve. So that's the gist. That's why it's so hot.
I love it. It's been a great conversation, Daryl, and we have one final question to wrap it up. I think it's a good question to end on, and it's just a clarifying question. So Sumit again is asking, so can CRM and sales engagement coexist to increase productivity of a sales rep?
Absolutely. Let me go back to this slide. So in this slide here, you'll see them actually coexisting, right? So on the left, you'll see the sales development rep in the middle of the funnel area where they're qualifying that new lead is living in sales engagement. But once they've qualified them and said, yes, there's interest. I may have interest in buying your product or service. I have the budget, I have the authority, I have the need, I have urgency. So let's talk to your account executive. Then typically that gets handed over to CRM. So finally it comes out of marketing automation to sales engagement. Now it's in CRM and now it is an opportunity. And the AE lives in the CRM working that deal. And now because of that, everything still applies. Your pipeline management, your forecasting capabilities, all your processes that if they close the deal, then the onboarding process kicks in and all the notifications go up, or this is where I support you, this is your success manager, yada, 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 yada. So they totally can coexist together.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Perfect. Yeah. So look, if you haven't looked into sales engagement and you're part of the Sales Hacker community, I would strongly suggest you do. 3x productivity, revenue efficiency goes through the roof, which is extremely important. So take a look for sure. And Daryl, just quickly for those members that maybe didn't put it together what VanillaSoft does, how does VanillaSoft help sales professionals today?
How much time you got? In a nutshell, VanillaSoft, we're a SaaS-based solution, so software as a service, where you can get a 30-day free trial to kick the tires on us, no obligations, not 2 weeks, a full 30 days. And if you want to try it out, it's a month-to-month offering. You're not signing for a full 1-year annual commit. You can sign up and walk away if it doesn't work for you. But we are a sales engagement platform. So we're going to sit right within your technology stack. We integrate with all the major platforms, and we're going to allow you to fundamentally take all those leads that are withering on the vine, my goodness, withering on the vine.
Not that time yet, is it?
We're almost there. Withering on the vine that are not being called frequently enough, that are not being called in the right sequence, the right cadence, the right priority, and it just gives structure to your team. So exactly as Scott said, suddenly your sales team they're actioning those leads, they're qualifying those leads, they're turning it into real pipeline. They're 100% utilized, and they're doing exactly what you want them to do. And we've eliminated the human bias, the human behavior. We've eliminated all the obstacles that are impeding you today. You heard Scott talk about life before sales engagement and life after. You talk about, if you had a great opportunity from another employer, but there was no sales engagement involved, he'd seriously second think that because now he's tasted both sides. Your sales reps are going to love this. They're going to thank you for it because in the end, they don't want to just hit number quota because that's the goal. That's how they're comped. So they're as incented as you are to have success. That's what we do. We're a sales engagement platform. You can learn more at vanillasoft.com. If you have more questions, I'll come back here. You can follow me on LinkedIn. You can ping me on email. I'll take any questions you have and continue the dialogue. So check it out.
Awesome. Yeah, make sure you do follow Daryl on LinkedIn. You got some great videos and great content that you push out. So anyway, always informative, always entertaining, Daryl. It was a really enjoyable conversation, and thank you so much for your time and insight today.
I've had a blast. Take care, folks. We'll talk to you soon.